This episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Learn more at slashandcast.net.
Welcome to my world, bitch.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Silver Screen Scream Show. My name is Kirby.
And I'm Jesse.
And how you doing, you sexy bitch?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Jesse, I need to tell you something. You're not the only sexy bitch on this show. We have another sexy bitch on the show.
Who do we have?
Well, we'll just have to let him introduce himself.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt. You may know me from Gun Interactive, the creative house behind games like Friday the 13th, The Game, and Layers of Fear 2. You also may have heard my voice from Radio for the Creeps, if there's any citizens of Creep City out there listening. And I'm just pumped to join you guys and hang out and talk about some horror.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
I first off want to say you guys over at Gun created one of the best video games ever. Like, I don't care what anyone says. Friday the 13th had such heart put into that game. And just me and Jesse alone, like, we would play with my family, and we had some of the best memories in that game.
Oh my gosh, some
like,
of the best memories. Oh my gosh.
You could do some, I mean, even with the glitches, which some people are like, no, get them glitches out of here. I fucking had a blast with the glitches too. I don't even care.
I was
the
all
game
about
just
it.
had so much heart. I loved every second of it. So guys, you all created a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. It's definitely much appreciated. Working in games is tricky because there's, as you noted, there are things that come up, there's bugs, there's glitches, there's issues, there's things like that. But, trying to stay on top of those things, trying to tackle those things as they come up, trying to keep the community in a position where, the game feels balanced to them. It's a constant, balance beam that you're walking on, and it's a razor's edge. And so, sometimes, there's some glitches in there that also happen to be a little bit of fun. Like, for instance, I hate to say it, but right now I kind of like the weird hodgepodge Jasons that we're seeing, which is like, it's like three different Jason skins all mixed into one. There are some that are really, I saw one with an eyeball on his chest, and it was just amazing. I was like,
you're just like, what the fuck?
That's better than any skin you could come up with.
Oh my gosh.
Hell yeah.
I love it.
Like, the game is just creating content itself.
Yeah.
Like, it's just creating the coolest ass skins I've ever, I've seen a couple of them that were just so fucking bonkers. Like, it just like, I've seen some part 2s mixed in with some part 7s and different stuff. It's hilarious. And the glitches, like, when it first came out, like the phasing through walls, I know some people were like,
that was my best tact, because I wasn't one of them players that like went straight into it. I was one that would hide for 20 minutes.
Yeah, you're the cheater. You were the cheater. You were like, what? I'm going to phase through this wall because I know there's a chance I can get away.
Exactly. I was.
God damn it, Jesse. Get out of here. You're fired. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we definitely have some citizens of Creep City too that listen to our show. So I'm glad that they're going to be able to experience us together.
Well, Radio for the Creeps is actually in between seasons right now. I did the first season, 12 episodes, and now taking a little, it gets tricky here. I did 12 episodes, season 1. Season 2 is going to start in September, and I was going to take all of August off. Since taking all of August off, in quotes, I did 2 bonus episodes. One was a podcast roundtable. I know you guys couldn't make it to, maybe on the next one, it would be really great to have you guys there. But yeah, the one was a podcast roundtable with some of the Slash and Cast Network folks and Kill by Kill and stuff like that, where we talked about Jaws. And the other was with some of my coworkers from Gun. So basically my month off has been still an episode a week. So,
you're like,
yeah.
in between seasons, but technically season 1.5 is going strong.
Yeah, exactly. And it's keeping the same cadence as season 1. So, I don't even know why I say it anymore, but yeah.
It's like addicting though, when you think about it. Like I know you're like, I'm going to take a break, focus on things, and that way season 2 will come in strong. But then you're just sitting there like, I'm just going to throw in some more episodes.
Yeah. Well, Shark Week comes up and you're like, this is a great opportunity to talk about Jaws. Let's go. And then I popped in an old movie. I popped in Turistas and I started watching it and I was like, man, nobody can go on vacation. We should do an episode talking about vacations gone horribly. So the folks from Gunn and I sat down, which I thought was clever because we happen to have an anthropologist at Gunn. Mel actually has a PhD. So, having Mel on hand and Dan on hand was great because I was like, look, we all work together, yet we cannot go on any vacations, because of travel and all that. Not because of work reasons, but because of travel reasons. So I was like, well, let's sit around and talk about, travel films. And so we talked about Hostel, The Ruins, and Turistas. So, and I mean, it made for a great timely kind of episode. So whatever.
Yeah, those were actually really good episodes. I have listened to both of them, and
Thank you.
Yeah, those 3 movies that you all went over, they are very problematic, but I can still watch them and find some enjoyment out of them, even though, like, Jesus Christ, like you all were talking about, like those Americans are like, you sit there and are supposed to root for them, but in reality, it's like they're the idiots that got themselves into this mess, and like, it just blows my fucking mind.
Oh, the moral of the story is basically there was a string of movies where anytime you showed Americans in another country, they were being assholes, and it was like, it was just an inevitable string of movies there where it was just like, hey, guess what? We got more asshole Americans overseas. But
that's very relatable in real life too. That like going out of the country, they're just like, fuck, here's those guys again.
Yep. And I mean, every time they were getting drunk, I mean, in every one of these movies, they're at some point they're getting drunk in some situation where they shouldn't. 2 of the movies, they're getting drunk on a beach, and you're like, oh, this is like coronavirus Florida right here. Like, this is a terrible, like everything just made too much sense to not talk about it. So I don't know. We hashed it all out and we made fun of some people and it was good. But I really appreciate you checking out the episodes. Means a lot.
No problem, man. You got a great show, and I'm glad to have you on here. And really, what has everyone been up to? I know I just got done reading the Psycho novel, which is completely different than the movie. It's not completely different, but Norman Bates is a completely different human being than the movie. So that was interesting. I've been watching some Nightmare on Elm Street, but that's pretty much it.
Wow. I know. I seen that. I seen where you were talking about reading that. I, aside from, my usual work, school, taking care of my dogs, I told you a little earlier, I don't know if you've ever heard of the show, Matt. It was on Sci-Fi and they have it on the Shudder channel right now. It's, I guess, one of those original series from Sci-Fi or something, but it's called Channel 1.
I think you mean Channel 0, right?
Channel 0. Why do I keep saying Channel 1 to everybody?
Jesus Christ.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I loved the first season. I really loved the first season. So I totally cut you off there.
No, you're fine. No, that's what I was going to say. I was telling Chris how much, I just started it not even 2 days ago. And I was telling him how much, I love it. I literally, before I came upstairs to get on this podcast, I just started the last episode of the first season. And I was telling Chris how much, I was like, you have to watch the show. I don't know why no one's talking about this thing. You know what I mean? So
I think you're like me, a little late to the party. And I think that's probably why we're not seeing, because I only just recently watched it also while being shut in.
Right.
And I started tweeting about it, and people were like, "Yeah, dude, we already saw that."
Yeah, I know.
Okay, jeez, well, screw me, right? I was like, whatever, dude, it's great.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, I have to ask you this question now.
Okay.
A lot of people who like Channel 0. Oh, well, you're on the first season.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to talk about Channel 0 after you've seen season 2 and possibly some of season 3.
Okay. All right.
The one question I would like to ask, if you like season 1, are you a fan of David Lynch films and David Lynch's series Twin Peaks or no?
I have heard great things about Twin Peaks. I have just not actually took the moment to sit down and even watch it.
Yeah.
But I've heard everybody that's told me about it has said it's like a really good show. So
I caught some really solid like Twin Peaks vibes
uh-huh.
from season 1 of Channel Zero early on. And then, it starts to kind of take its own shape, but definitely early on, there's a strong Twin Peaks vibe. And I'm going to do it. Not even 10 minutes in. Not even 10 minutes in. I'm going to mention Cannibal Holocaust.
Oh, no.
And the reason is Channel Zero season 3, the first episode of Channel Zero season 3 is playing the Cannibal Holocaust score in like the first 2 minutes of the show. And I was sitting on my couch watching, and all of a sudden I heard that soundtrack, and I was just like, holy shit, that's Cannibal Holocaust. And my wife was like, you need to stop it with this movie. But I was like, that's Cannibal Holocaust.
That's great.
You're at the other end of the house and you hear like one little tiny noise. You're like, oh shit, I gotta go.
She
She
probably knows just as much about that movie now as much as you do, don't she?
I won't shut up about it.
That's great.
That episode, Jesse, he was sitting there saying that he tried getting her to watch it, and she like went in the kitchen to quote unquote get a snack or something. She like never returned.
Yeah, she's done it to me twice now. She's like,
great.
I'm gonna go get a snack, and I'm like, all right, cool. You want me to pause it? And she's like, no, it's fine. And then she just never comes back.
She never.
Like, the movie ends, and I'm like, what the hell? Why am I alone? Yeah,
That's great.
twice now she's done that. But
Oh my gosh.
I told you that movie haunts me, and you brought up Channel Zero, so it's not even my fault.
I did. I'm so sorry. I
No,
totally triggered you.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just this is my life now.
He like goes to sleep and looks at the wall, and then somehow it morphs into the fucking film, and he's like, I can't escape this.
Yeah, I hear it in my dreams. It's terrible.
Oh my gosh. So what have you been up to lately?
I've been up to no good. I've been saying yes to a lot of podcast guest appearances and things in my month off. Quick shout out to everybody on the network you guys share, the Slash and Cast podcast network. I just honestly, I've just been trying to use some quarantine time to like create anything and everything and a little bit of something every day. So, quarantine started, and I started out with, I wanted to kick the podcast off, and I wanted to get back to some of the things early on when I became a community manager. Excuse me. Early on when I became a community manager, I used to be a content creator and create a lot of different types of content. And then, that included everything from assets to, posts and running social media accounts and things like that for the content that I did create. So
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of jump in with both feet and do that again with the podcast. So all like the artwork and the social accounts and things like that, I've been kind of tinkering with, getting into a little bit of photography. I got a nice camera and started taking some pictures, and then started upgrading some lenses. So I just been, honestly, I've been keeping up with the core movies that are coming out and the things that, that we're all talking about. But by the same note, I've been trying to just do some creative things to try to like maintain the sanity while I'm stuck inside.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You got to do that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, as bad as this pandemic is, I will say that I truly believe that it's given people an escape from the normal everyday work and to try to experience things and actually step into that creative life. I know a lot of people, especially, I tried getting a webcam a few months ago because I wanted to try streaming, and a lot of people were buying webcams and microphones, which of course they would use it for like online work and stuff. But a lot of people were using that to try to start YouTube or podcast themselves. And I just think it's that if there's one positive thing, it gives people the excuse to try to push themselves creatively.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the things that I always, I'm kind of inspired by Wes from Gun. He says, just, get out there. He's very big on just get out there and create something. And he was a good motivator for me, with the podcast idea. I was kind of like kicking it around, and then you know how it is. You're like, well, I don't know, man. Who's going to listen to that anyway? And he's like, man, just jump in and do something. You have to just create something to just kind of exercise that part of you as a person, get something out into the world You know, don't beat yourself up on any of it. Just create a little something each day to make you feel a little more normal. And I started trying to follow that kind of, you know, ethos or whatever, and just trying to make sure that in everything I did, I was creating a little something at some point, even if it was just a couple of snapshots with my digital camera while I poke around as the noob that I am with it, you know, something. And it really does. It keeps you kind of in a better headspace with, you know, some of the limited social interaction. And then you have the added benefit of being able to run to your Instagram and show the new picture you took, or run to, you know, the podcast platforms and put out a new episode, or sit down. I mean, if I never kicked off Radio for the Creeps, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. I mean, maybe I would have gotten an invite through the, you know, the Gun and Friday the 13th thing, but you know, all of this creativity just breeds more creativity for all of us. And so that's why I mentioned, you know, right now is a great time. As you guys know, I mean, I'm sitting here right now is a great time to ask me to do something. Cause I'm just like, yeah, cool. People are like, hey, you want to participate in this online, whatever thing? I'm like, yeah, right on. Let's go. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
we're having a trivia night. You want to do? Yeah, sure. Why don't you check out this new game? Yeah, sure. All right. I'm just
like, yeah, I'll
sure
do that.
guy.
And they're like, yeah, I totally agree. Dude, okay, this podcast is a little over a year old. And when I first started, it was just me because Jesse was working and I didn't know if he was for sure wanting to do it. So I was like, I'll just do it myself. So I did it. And honestly, like I got like one listen a week and I'm pretty sure it was me clicking on my own episode. So I was just like, you know, whatever. I just did it to do it. And I, you know, to this day, I still do it just to do it. And I have a lot of extra stuff that I want to do, but it's steadily growing, and
it really
being on
is.
the podcast network has just been like awesome because I've met so many
really
cool people.
Yeah.
You know, Riley from Slash and Cast, Nick from Slash and Cast, Bailey from We Came From Beneath the Sea, just all kinds of awesome people. And then getting to meet you, not in person, but just through here, because we're literally only an hour and a half away, because you live in Lexington, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So like we're literally like an hour and a half away. I had no idea Gun was in Kentucky. I was just like, Kentucky's just one of these places. Like
I was thinking California. I had no idea. Like I clearly wasn't doing my research, if you can.
Well,
tell.
I was just like, you know, Kentucky, I never knew anyone that was horror fans. And the fact that I'm literally learning that so many people are from Kentucky that are in the horror genre, like you all, Johnny Depp, fucking,
I mean,
John
not
Carpenter.
that it matters, but George Clooney. I mean, I know that's like off, but I mean, you know.
Hey, you know, here's the thing about Gun that I think is really interesting. We're a small group, because again, we're a creative house. You know, we don't actually hard and fast develop the games. We do a lot of the creative side. We handle a lot of the marketing and the PR and community and all of that. And we do, again, you know, the creative side. If, you know, you guys noted earlier, if you've played Friday the 13th, then you know what that ends up looking like. It's the redesign. It's the recreation of Packanack Lodge and places like that in game. That's Gun. But we are a very small team. Normally a game studio like this, you're right, would be based out of California, would be based out of, well, Austin is another pretty big one now too, Seattle, those kinds of places. But again, that's down to Wes and Wes thinking, you know, hey, we could be here in his home state and doing this thing. And I love it here. I moved out here. I was born and raised in New Jersey, right across the bridge from Manhattan.
So fantastic.
Yeah, that's how I grew up, a punk rocker, crossing that bridge back and forth every
Hell
time.
yeah.
You know? The bridge was just way too close to my house, and I was like, man, there's a lot of cool shit on the other side of that bridge. You know,
right.
Let me jump on the train real quick. But yeah, and then I moved to North Carolina for my first community job, and so like I had my culture shock already of moving from north to somewhat south. North Carolina, the area I was in isn't quite as south as Kentucky. I spent like you know, a couple of years there, close to 4 years there, and then moved out here, and now I've been out here almost 2 years, and yeah, you know, I love it here. I love being here. Nobody gives me a hard time. It's similar to North Carolina in that respect. Nobody's like, you don't sound like you're from here. Like that shit that you might expect in some places.
Right.
Oh yeah, like our hometown. No.
Oh my gosh.
Literally our hometown. No, I keep talking to my wife, and as soon as we're able, like I keep telling her, I was like, I want to move to Lexington so fucking bad. I worked there last year for my old job. I had to work out of town, and we went on a little adventure and walked around.
Oh,
Plus,
yeah,
there's
I
a
remember
fucking
that.
photography shop, which is like heaven to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, I want to be there so bad. It's the best environment for me. And as soon as we can, because I mean, it's a unique area. It's not too big.
Yeah.
It's not too small. It's just the right place.
And Lexington, I'm going to sound like I work at the Chamber of Commerce now. Lexington has there's a lot of diversity here. There's a lot of people from out of town here, partially because of the colleges. And then I guess some folks from the colleges settle. There's a lot of really good up and coming business here. There's a lot going on in Lexington that makes it kind of desirable. And to me, I can fly to Santa Monica. I can fly to LA. I can fly back to New York. I can fly all these other cool places. But when it comes to like 365, I want to spend them somewhere that is capable, for lack of a better term, as well as quiet and remote. And I feel like that's a great way to describe Lexington. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of things here. But it's not to the point where it's nonstop around the clock, all business. And I love it. I do. I love it here.
100% agree.
Can't say it enough. Yep.
We did a 20-minute tangent. Yeah, dude. Oh God, I want to go to Scarefest so bad, and I don't think they're having it this year unless it's like an online thing. I was so pumped. Me and Riley, we were like, yeah, we're gonna go over to Lexington and we're gonna have a good time and hang out with Gunn. And we watched a movie, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like a blast. And then COVID's like, nope. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah.
Well, 2021, we have to all meet up at Scarefest and make an event of it,
Oh, hell yeah. I totally agree. This year was the first year I actually went to a horror convention. We went to Days of the Dead Indy, which thank God it wasn't super packed. There was not a lot of people there, so it was easy for us to stay safe, but there wasn't a whole lot of people there. So most of the celebrities and everything that were in these films didn't really show up.
Yeah.
But got to get some cool merch and stuff. So, whatever.
You got to meet the character. Oh my gosh, I should know this. The guy from Evil Dead, didn't you? Isn't that the same place?
That was a couple weeks. Yeah. A couple weeks before that, I went to meet Bruce Campbell, which was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
He didn't really talk to me. He talked to my wife, and I was like, God dang it, I wish I had boobs.
So mad.
Bruce Campbell's hitting on my wife.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm so jealous. I want him to hit on me.
I literally asked Chris when he got back, I was like, how did it go? And he was like, I mean, it went really great. I mean, I was kind of upset though. And I was like, why? And his wife, China, was like, because Bruce was talking to me more than him. I was just like, oh my God.
I was like, you're looking like a cool cat. And he's like, thanks. And then he just talks to my wife, and I'm like, damn it.
The hard right turn. And he was like,
it was like, why am I not beautiful? No.
Oh my
what
God.
you should have said was, I loved you in Bubba Hotep.
Yeah.
That was attention.
Oh, yeah. Or talk about, what's that fucking movie, the superhero movie where he was a principal? Fuck, what's that movie? Sky High.
Yeah.
Like, I loved you in Sky High.
The other day too, and I was like, that can't be Bruce Campbell. I would have heard about it. And then all of a sudden I was like, it was a movie that was on in the background while I was just living my life kind of. And like, I happened to be by the TV again when the credits were rolling, and it was like, Officer so-and-so, Bruce Campbell. And I was like, what the fuck? That was actually Bruce Campbell. And I wanted to save that nugget. I'll have to find it in his IMDb, because I wanted to save that nugget, because I totally wanted to like meet him at like a big Evil Dead something or another and just mention that instead of anything else that he's done. And
just dress up like him from that movie and be like, who am I? And he's like, fuck, I don't know. And he's like,
officer number 4 or whatever it was. Yeah.
You're like, I'm officer number 4 from that movie. And he's like, oh, okay.
I'm so happy to meet you. I loved you in whatever as officer number 4. Yeah. I was like, oh, I have to remember this. So now like, I'm going to have to IMDb this so I can make sure I get my facts straight for when next chance I have to meet Bruce Campbell.
In all honesty, other than Evil Dead, which, you know, he's perfect in that. I fucking love him in every Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. Every time I see him is just fucking magnificent. But enough from this tangent, 24-minute tangent.
Oh my gosh.
Let's talk about some news here.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left.
Did you really put her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard that they found her liver in the mailbox. That she had cocaine in her pancreas.
Some teenagers. The blackest diet.
Liver alone.
The devil's eye.
And there's a little bit of news that is pretty good to talk about here. For one, The Strangers director is coming out with a new film called The Dark and the Wicked, and it's coming in November. I haven't seen the trailer on it, but it looks pretty interesting from what I read. This one is really fucking important, though. Is it Fede Alvarez or Fede Alvarez?
Fede.
Where he's producing the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, he's getting a new fucking director 1 week into production, which is like, just blows my fucking mind. Like, yeah. I don't know what's up with Texas Chainsaw Massacre in these films, but it's like, for some reason, they just can't have it easy for him. Like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 was a masterpiece.
Okay,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wait, are they remaking? What are they doing? Because they've done so
reboot.
Many different. Oh my God, this is like the third reboot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm so like, okay. All right.
You had that Nispel era. They tore through all the movies and they Nispelized all the horror movies.
Yeah.
And then you had another one, which was like, well, for a string there, you had a couple of Texas films because there's like Leatherface at the beginning, and then the one with the young lady. I can't remember her name now.
Was it the prequel one? Is that what you're?
Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had one that was like a very similar kind of remake, but then straight at times. And I don't know,
It's
man.
been all over the place.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Fede Alvarez, though, speaking of Evil Dead, since we were talking about Bruce Campbell, Fede Alvarez is behind the Evil Dead remake, which is probably one of my favorite remakes. Actually, never mind that. Scratch that. I'll make the bold statement. It's my favorite horror film remake that I know of. And I know some people are like, well, The Thing. Yeah,
Nope.
Some people are like, well, The Thing is a remake. I count John Carpenter's Thing as its own film. I don't roll that in there, but Evil Dead 2013, best horror remake, easy. So
dude,
hopefully,
me too. We did an episode on our top 5 remakes, and that is by far the best remake I've ever seen. Like, when you think of the first Evil Dead film, they were trying so hard to make it scary. They didn't. I mean, which when I was a kid and watched it, it did scare me. But I mean, compared to this remake, this remake is just fucking crazy. So I feel like Mr. Alvarez here, if he's producing the new Texas Chainsaw, I do have hope that it could be good. I really do. I feel like his image on things is just great. Like, Don't Breathe was an amazing film. Evil Dead was an amazing film. I don't know if he has any other films, but those two specifically.
He done The Girl in the Spider Web, which is a sequel to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is more kind of action, I
haven't seen it. Was it any good?
I've seen the first one and it was great, but then they recasted every main character for the sequels, so I didn't watch them.
Well,
I just kind of have a hard time doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I do believe, though, if they're going to if he's producing this, I feel like it has a chance of being really good. But getting a new director 1 week into production, that's just kind of like, that's a really early bump in the road, you know?
That's a big red flag, too.
Yeah, that kind of right there shows you that, you know, there's things going on behind the scenes.
I mean, it's scary.
You know, fingers crossed that he'll move from producing to directing it. Because I feel like if Alvarez was in the director's chair for it, I'd have a lot more confidence than just a production chair.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I would totally agree. You know, I don't know if they actually found a new director, but it says.
I would love. Go ahead. Sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I'm pulling up the article right now. I think they did actually find the new director. Let's see here. Yeah, David Blue Garcia has taken the other guy's place, which I don't know who was directing it before. So I don't know if I've even seen his movies.
I honestly don't know. I just know that I would love, like, I mean, this is kind of me just speaking as a whole on this whole topic, but I would love someone like Jordan Peele or Jason Blum to take a franchise that has already been done. And I would love for one of them to, like, I don't know, work on something that we've already, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that. Something like we've already seen, but give their take, because, I mean, their films, well, I mean, you see how well, I mean, their films do, and they, you know, create horror films and stuff like that. So it's, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know.
Jordan Peele is doing the new Candyman, which looks really fucking promising.
Right. Yeah, well, he is doing that. That's right.
So fingers crossed on that. Hopefully it comes out this year. Jesus Christ. Like, we were supposed to do like an award thing at the end of the year, and it's like, oh, there was only 2 fucking movies that were in theaters. So it's like, okay.
We went to see the, what was it called? The Invisible Man. Was that it?
Yeah, The Invisible Man. And
that was one of the movies right before they closed down all like the theaters and stuff like that. And so, yeah, after that, we kind of had a hard time, you know.
Well, Candyman is slated for October of this year. And hopefully, I mean, let's put it this way. I would bet my bottom dollar it's going to be a streaming title, similar to how they did with Invisible Man. I watched Invisible Man at home in that early streaming access. Same with The Hunt.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah. So hopefully Candyman we'll be able to see in our living rooms, and that'll give us some horror, at least something in October. As much as I don't think that, you know, like for instance, they pushed Halloween Kills. It was supposed to come out this October. They pushed it to 2021 in October again. I think that's, I don't know, this concept that you can't launch a horror movie unless it's a horror movie about summer. You can't launch a horror movie in summer is a little crazy to me. I mean, Halloween H2O came out in summer, you know,
yeah,
so
and it did pretty good.
I'm so depressed about it. Like, I can't even when Chris told me the news, I was like, are you serious?
But, I mean, Nia DaCosta's Candyman is going to be something. I have this really strong feeling about it. And so I'm really hoping that take on Candyman is going to come out in October and it's going to crush it. And we're all going to be kind of like jazzed on that enough to hold us over through this whole, you know, I mean, I call it a dry spell with films, but it's really more about the fact that, you know, the situation, it's not, you know, I mean, I don't mean to sound shitty like that. It's just the situation is what it is, but hopefully Candyman will carry us through this dry spell a bit and get us to the other side.
I hope
I have high hopes. Jordan Peele's been on a hot streak, like with every film. He's just been on top of it. And I never thought he would, like, I didn't even know he was into horror. Like, you know,
what
I
is
saw
it with all these comics? Have you noticed that? All these comics are like transition from like writing comedy and doing comedy shows to transitioning into horror. And it's like every time, like with the guy with the Halloween that we were talking about, Chris, he used to only write for like
he was in Pineapple Express. I can't fucking remember his name.
But yeah, talking about Danny McBride.
Yeah, Danny McBride. Yeah,
like him, and then Jordan Peele used to work for SNL and Mad TV, and was, you know, worked on that and stuff like that. And it's like they transitioned to horror, and everything they create is like amazing, and it's actually like original and scary. You know,
it's I think that, you know, a lot of people have said this better than me. Well, let me start by saying that. And what I'm going to say is my own variation on something similar that I've heard many places. So while this isn't some out there unique thought, this is more my interpretation and kind of reworking of it. But when it comes to comedy and you're writing to elicit an emotion, and that emotion is happiness, laughter, you know, whatever the case. But the entire purpose of the comedy is to get that punchline to land and get your audience to laugh and feel joy, to, you know, for lack of a better kind of more eloquent way to put it. Horror is eliciting an emotion as well as just fear. So I think that for people that are used to taking an audience in and creating that moment of getting them to be the putty in their hand and getting them to kind of play along with the comedic elements of the, film or show that they're working on, it's natural for them to transition that into fear. They're both like base emotions, laughing at a joke or jumping at a scare. They're very base human emotions, and being able to kind of play puppeteer with those emotions is a skill that translates well from one to the other. I think that the same thing can be said. I mean, if you're of that level in comedy, you can be of that level in horror if with a few extra strands of DNA between the two. And I don't think it's that far of a jump to elicit a slightly different emotion, which is causing fear. But another thing that I think is really vital, and I think it's not to be understated, about comedians switching over to horror and then their films doing well, as much as their films are great, I think that there's one note to it that kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people. And that's, they use levity really, really well in their films. In the new Halloween, I can't remember the character's name, but there's the young kid who's being babysat, and like,
yeah.
That kid is fucking hilarious.
Julian.
Yeah, Julian.
That's right.
And so the babysitter is, he's like, he says, "Oh, there's somebody in my room." And the babysitter's boyfriend's like, "What do you mean, like the boogeyman?" And he's like, "Shut up, Dave." And like those moments of comedic levity.
Yeah, I love that.
Some of them are written in, some of them are.
What did he say? What did he say?
Whenever he improvised quite a bit. Like, he was fucking.
What did he
hilarious.
say when they were leaving? He was leaving, and that guy was staying there, and he was running out the door. He's like, "You go up there, and you're gonna die," or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, you go up there, you're gonna die. I love when the babysitter gets up to go check on the sound. Right away, the kid is like, "Send Dave up there." He's like,
"Yeah."
Right.
He's like, "Don't go up there. Send your boyfriend. He can do it."
Yeah, but there's moments of comedic value in these films. In Get Out and Us, there are those minor notes of comedy as well. They're not. They're much more subdued, and I think that's out of respect to the source material that Jordan Peele was working with. But there are still those moments of, because again, in a horror film, you're building tension toward one end, and that's to scare the crap out of somebody. And occasionally you have to break that tension in order to release it without a scare, or release it as a false scare to throw the viewer off balance and things like that. So being able, again, like I said, puppeteering that audience to kind of play into your hands, that translates 1-to-1 from comedy to horror. And, yeah. So I think that if you watch, you can hear Danny McBride's screenplay in there. He wasn't the only one working on the Halloween 2018 screenplay, but you can hear his influence in there. Yeah. And you can hear Jordan Peele's comedic background in there. And I think that we're playing with emotions here. And I think that these guys they're already good at it.
Yeah. Very.
I blacked out for a minute there and I talked for way too long.
No, I was like totally invested. I was like seriously sitting up here to my mic, just kind of like staring off and listening to it. So
no, I love talking about this kind of stuff, especially because, I think adding that comedic value into these films help build a relationship with the characters. Like, I think I cared a lot more about these characters being able to laugh with them and not just having to worry about like, oh, I don't want to just worry that they're dying. Like, at least I want to feel some sort of emotion and connection with them, and laughing. I
agree with that.
With what they say helps that, I believe.
Yeah, I just think that in horror movies now, you can see that this is kind of the transition period where this is kind of where horror movies are going to end up leading to. And because before it seemed like a lot of horror movies were just straight edge, like you knew exactly what you were getting. But I feel like now, whenever, like you just mentioned, those like comedic efforts and stuff that they put into these films, I feel like it's almost like we're in the transitional period where horror movies are moving like further into the future, and they're going to be completely different. And maybe this is what it's going to be like for the next couple years, before the next big one.
And to speak to both points, really, seeing, Jesse, you had mentioned earlier about just a minute ago about horror movies kind of knowing what you're going to get. And Chris, you mentioned, caring for the characters more. Yeah. For a long time in horror, what you saw with characters was they were immediately in a situation of horror from minute one of the movie forward, or maybe you got a little tiny bit of setup in the beginning of the film, 20 minutes of setup, and then horror started, right? And so people are off balance and scared, and all of those things that go along with a horror movie. But these little light moments of levity, they round out characters. You're getting to know the whole character, not just the character under duress. So I think that's part of why, Chris, for instance, you were saying part of why you end up, kind of falling in love with the characters a bit more. You're seeing more of them as people and not just them under duress, under this terrible situation.
For sure.
Right. Definitely. That was a very good point. Definitely.
It's the difference between Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween and like any counselor in a Friday the 13th film.
Yeah,
right?
really.
You care more about Jamie Lee Curtis because you know more of her as a person than you do of any of the counselors in Halloween. I work on a Friday the 13th game and I don't remember half of their names. So
I only liked one, and I kind of was sad that she and she didn't even have a big role in the movie. So I don't even know why I liked her, but
Ginny was probably the best final girl from a Friday film, though.
Ginny is my favorite from Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse, you were talking about Fox, weren't you?
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Jesus.
I loved her. I just felt like she should have had a bigger part, Jesse. And she didn't. And
it's a badass.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Dude,
anyways.
Okay, just before we go over the main topic, this is just a little quick tangent. Can
quick
you
tangent.
please
I
tell
love
me,
this show, guys. This is so much fun.
the biker with the chain,
Ali.
does he not look like Dave Chappelle?
Kind of, but you know who he looks more like? Daryl Strawberry.
Let me look him up.
I'm looking
quick.
Daryl Strawberry up right now.
Daryl Strawberry was a New York Met in like the 80s for the baseball team, the New York Mets.
Oh my
shit.
gosh.
And I swear to God, when I was a little kid, I thought Daryl Strawberry was in that movie. And I was like, that's Daryl Strawberry plays Ali. That's, 100%, like when I was a youngster,
You're like, man.
And to this day, I can't see him and not be like, that's fucking Daryl Strawberry, man. 86
Right?
Mets.
That's great.
God, now that's going to be stuck in my head because every time I would watch it, I'd be like, God, that looks like Dave Chappelle. And now
he does, though. Yeah, he looks a little like both. Like if you're doing a biopic of Daryl Strawberry, Dave Chappelle would be a great casting choice.
He really would.
I fucking love Dave Chappelle too. He's actually a really talented actor too. He was in that what's that movie where they're singing? That doesn't really narrow it down much.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It has Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga in it.
A Star Is Born.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle was in that, and I thought he did fucking great in that. But
I didn't even know he was in it.
I didn't even know he was in that either.
Yeah, he was. I remember Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga went to this guy's house and hung out, and he was there. He was wearing like one of them golfing caps, I think. So maybe that's why you're like, this guy must play golf, and you're like, wait.
Noodles. That's the
I had to
character he
squint.
played.
I was like, that's Dave Chappelle.
You sure it wasn't Daryl Strawberry?
It could have been.
That's
All
great.
right, guys. Let's go ahead and go to the main topic of this episode. We're 40 minutes in, and we're going to talk about the rise and fall of the zombie subgenre. And some people may be like, Chris, you're fucking stupid. Like, there's no fall of this zombie subgenre. Like, it's still good, which I will agree. There's some, like, Train to Busan. I haven't seen yet, but I've heard is fantastic.
It's fantastic.
You gotta see it.
You gotta watch that.
But I truly feel like, because they're in the early 2010s, and I blame The Walking Dead for this 100%. And I hate to say that because there in the beginning, I loved the show, but I think it blew up. Like, it blew up so fast, and there was zombie shit everywhere I went. I'd look and see zombie shit everywhere I turned. And now it's just kind of nowhere. Like, being a horror fan, like, I'll see zombie stuff because that's, I look at that stuff every single day, and I know there's going to be a sequel to Train to Busan that's going to be an animated film, which I think is going to be pretty awesome to look at. But honestly, in the 2010s, when The Walking Dead first started, and then after so many seasons, I think they have dragged it out so long. I don't think many people are that interested into this subgenre as much as people were. Would you all agree?
Saturation. Absolutely. I'm sorry to jump right in there. I have strong feelings about The Walking Dead. It started out strong. I really enjoyed it. It turned into a soap opera with zombies in the backdrop, and it started to get all kinds of crazy there. And I mean, whatever, more power to them. They pulled in a lot of people that maybe aren't traditional like zombie flick or zombie show watchers, with some of the like interpersonal drama that they started to incorporate in a lot of The Walking Dead, but they also kind of like wore everybody out on the entire topic of zombies.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. For a while there, it was like everywhere you turn, there was zombie something, and The Walking Dead was a huge part of that. But that saturation usually leads to a bit of a, feast or famine. There's so much zombie shit from Walking Dead. You'll see it fall off. I mean, they spun off Walking Dead into like 2 other series, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they? I think like a prequel. Yeah. So like, they go overboard because there's money to be made. And I mean, let's just be real. There's money to be made on it. Walking Dead was a powerhouse franchise for a while. So they spin it off a whole bunch. They saturate the market. There will be a lull where it'll be quiet. And then somebody will come back with something new and fresh and sharp. And that'll bring things back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, sure. I mean, this isn't really like horror related in this sense, but like just the way you just described it, it's kind of like what happened with Grey's Anatomy. If you've ever seen that series, like it's like what, 14, 15 seasons now. And like, that's kind of how they done it. Like there was a down period with that show. And then it's like, they killed off one of the like main characters since like 2006 when that show or whenever it, premiered. And it's like, it seemed like, that's when I heard everybody talking about it and getting back into it and doing something, you know what I mean? It's just, yeah. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Well, it was like, okay, The Walking Dead first, it started in 2010, 2011. And it came on, it was strong as hell. Like the first 3 seasons were easily the best seasons of the show. And it was kind of like, I mean, I hear people say it all the time. It's like zombie Days of Our Lives. And as I agree, like the human relationships that they have is important during this apocalypse setting. But they went too far with that. And like, now it's like to the point, like there for a while, I can't even watch it anymore, but like, I do not want to watch an action sequence in slow motion every single time. And now they just add slow motion shots to where you're just seeing their faces. It's like, Daryl, get the fuck out of my way. There's some zombies I want to see. Like, what the hell's going on with this show? And
one thing. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say one thing that's super noteworthy while we're talking, and I would be loath to forget to mention this. The Walking Dead, though, has helped make Greg Nicotero the household name that he is. Nicotero is, don't get me wrong, I'm a horror head, and so are you guys, so I'm sure we all knew of Nicotero well before Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Creepshow 2, things like that. K and B effects, we all know of it, right? But his kind of involvement with the Walking Dead series, not just as makeup or as effects, but as a director and a producer and all of those things. I mean, now we're seeing Creepshow, the series and stuff like that. I think that if we leave Walking Dead, the content itself over there, and we talk about its reach in horror over here, what it's done for Greg Nicotero, I think cannot be understated, because I think the world of Greg Nicotero. I think he's a gem when it comes to his chops with direction, running the Creepshow series, and then that's not even mentioning his work on makeup, which is legendary. So to bring him a little bit more to the front and give him some of the shine that's opening up more doors and getting more things done, like Creepshow the series, which you owe to The Walking Dead. Really, I would argue that Channel Zero, Nosferatu, Haunting a Hill House, Creepshow, all of those series, those horror shows, owe a little something to Walking Dead, because Walking Dead really was the one that proved that a series about horror, with horror at least adjacent to horror in the background of some kind, even if you want to look at the character side of Walking Dead with the horror in the background, all of these series owe something to that, because Walking Dead proved that that's viable right now on a major network. So
Yeah, that is definitely true. Because I mean, honestly, that was the first show, like major show, because it blew up with AMC too. Because I'd only watched AMC during October anyways for the films, and I'd see these commercials every 5 seconds of The Walking Dead, and I didn't even know it was a comic book at the time. I was a freshman in high school. I was just like, man, this show looks fucking good. What the hell's going on here? And I watched it, and then I realized it was a comic book, and I believe those people were from Kentucky too, just to go on a tangent. But yeah, it just blew up like wildfire, and it led to all kinds of different shows, not even just horror related, but like Comic Book Men, all these different shows AMC was starting to build, and it really proved that these shows have chances. Like Nosferatu, I haven't seen, but I know it's Stephen King's son that made the novel, and I heard it was really good, and I know it's a Shudder. Is it a Shudder exclusive now?
I know it's on Shudder, but I think it's on AMC as well. So
is it still on AMC?
Cable,
okay, yeah.
I think if you stuck with cable, you can still see it there, but then you can also see it on Shudder. Shudder's owned by AMC and all that.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely, the point of Walking Dead kind of proving these things and knocking these doors open. So if the series moves on and eventually is now, a little more soap opera-y, a little different. They've got all these spin-offs. Even if a lot of the horror heads are not really as locked in as they were in those first few seasons, we all are reaping the rewards of it doing so well because we're getting to see all these other cool things get made. And I mean, ultimately, if it kicks the doors open for more cool horror shit, let's go. Like, I don't care. I hope it lives forever if it continues knocking the doors open for things like Creepshow the series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Which, God, I need to see that series on Shudder, which I'm still watching other shows right now. So I'm sitting there like, I'll just wait for it. I know I'll love it. So I'll just wait for it until I finish these shows real quick. And then I've
been over here trying to get him. I need to get your impression of this show, just while we're just on this topic. Have you seen the film Haunt yet?
Yeah. Now,
absolutely. Chris has not seen it, and why, I don't know. But let me just, what was your impression of that film?
I really enjoyed Haunt. I thought it was great.
Okay, Chris. Right there. Right there. I was just trying to,
listen,
give him another nudge to watch that film because it's just...
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the recent horror films that I think is the most... Now this is gonna look. Let me preface a little here. This is gonna sound like a put down, and it's not. It's not in any way. But this is the most traditional horror film I think I've seen in a while that was of this level. So probably the best traditional, and I say traditional because Haunt is very much like a classic kind of like almost 80s horror film. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it does that very well. There's not a lot, I think, that can do that still very well. They have to incorporate these other elements to kind of get their angle. It's either, found footage this or elevated that. But Haunt is just a straight up, very traditional feeling horror movie. And I don't want to say too much about it, but there's some really cool character work in there too with the bad guys. The big bads are really interesting.
Yes.
Right. And I think that they almost, they're very much worth it. And it takes a fun concept of, going to extremes, and it really kind of does a good job of pulling you in and scaring the shit out of you. So if you haven't, you have to. You have to.
If that didn't right there, if that didn't right there just give you the motivation to watch it, I don't know what else will.
And that was totally spoiler free.
Yes, it was. That was you really motivational speaking.
I'm terrible at not spoiling things. Though. Usually, 2 sentences in, I'm like, and so at the end, I have a bad habit.
You're like, the killer was Jason's mother, and you're just like, oh,
right.
Oh my gosh,
guys, that was I just received a text from Donald Trump saying I was fired from the show.
Oh, okay. I was just oh my gosh,
God damn it!
That literally just reminded me of JR, my partner, whatever, because he just watched Friday the 13th, the first film this year. He has never seen it before. And we sat down and we watched it. And at the very end, he goes, Wait a minute. So you're telling me that Jason is not the killer in this movie? And
Man.
I said, no, JR. I said, I really thought you knew, but I didn't want to say anything. He goes, you got to be kidding me. It's his mother. And I was like, yeah, he was so tore up. Because
That's great, though.
He loved the movie, but he was just like, what the hell?
That's so like rare to find though right now.
Really
Somebody who
love
still gets
experiencing that. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
somebody who
was.
still that twist still hits them, you know? Like that's awesome.
Yeah, funny you said that because whenever I first told Chris, that's exactly what he said. He's like, wow, you never get that because most people, have. And yeah, he was totally, but I feel like he kind of knew in a little way just because you couldn't see the killer's body or face or anything like that. So I think he had an idea, but he was just like complete, like, I don't know, want to say disappointment, but he just was completely shocked by it. You know what I mean?
It truly is. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to say it's not only rare because the movie's been out so long and it's such like a main staple of horror films. It's even rarer because Scream has been out for so long and is a main staple of horror films. And in minute 1 of Scream, they spoil that Jason's mother is the killer.
Dude.
So even the people who haven't seen it are like, but I've seen Scream and I know that it's his mom. You know?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
Your mind's about to be
Like-
blown right here because, okay, my wife China never watched the Scream movies until she got with me. Yeah. Dude, Riley was like, okay, you need to divorce her. And I was like, well, I'm already trying to sign the papers. No. She's right behind me like, you dickhead. But no, literally, she watched them this year. She watched them all. And she was like, I thought Scream was the funny movie. And I was like, oh my dear
She literally
God.
thought it was.
I was
like
like,
the Wayans brothers, right? They're in that. Like, no.
yeah.
She literally thought it was that. What was that called? Scary
movie.
Yeah.
Which was the original title for Scream, which I thought was interesting. But
that is interesting.
yeah, it was really weird.
I didn't know that
it was the
either.
original name, and then they said Scream, and he was like, "No, I want to keep it Scary Movie." And then it wasn't till after it already came out, Wes Craven was like, "Well, I can't see it being anything but Scream now." So I thought that was really interesting.
I have a weird relationship with Scream in the respect that I appreciate it and respect it. Look, I mean, here's one thing about me, and I'll keep this part of the tangent short. I don't ever judge anybody for what they like. I disagree. I'll sit here and debate with you. I'll tell you all the reasons why I don't think a movie is good, but I'm not hating on anybody for liking anything. Okay. I like a lot of weird horror movies too. So that said, Scream is very tricky for me because I respect it. I understand the draw and appeal of it, but Scream came out in a time where like horror kind of suffered a little bit of a low period. And there was a lot of movies like, She's All That. And, those other like weird teen movies.
Yes.
And those were doing really well.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was Mrs. Shacha, my wife. She brought this up to me when I was talking to her about Scream. And it's probably going to be like a future episode of Date Night on Radio for the Creeps. But she really, she hit the nail on the head with this one. At the time that Scream came out, and I Know What You Did Last Summer and movies like that, it actually opened the doors for horror to a whole new audience because it took the kids that were going to see the movies like She's All That and bullshit, like all those teen movies and shit. It got them to go check out some horror films because, Jennifer Love Hewitt is in the one and, Nev Campbell is in the other kind of thing. So it started bringing these kids who were into those kind of actors and actresses into the theaters for a horror film. And it kind of saw horror get this little resurgence. Next thing you know, Josh Hartnett's in horror movies and all this other all these heartthrobs and shit are in horror movies. Yeah. And it got people going to see horror movies again. Now, by that logic, my issue with it, I always say that those 90s, 2000s horror movies always feel like a little too much like teen movies.
Yeah.
And so my knock against it is exactly what did something really awesome for horror. And I had never seen it that way until my wife, she's not all that much younger than me, but just younger enough where, those movies played a large part, like, her teen years or whatever. And so again, like I said, they all feel like teen movies to me, but in hindsight, I'm thankful because it got kids out to the theaters to go check out horror movies and, kind of saw another little uptick in horror for that
Yeah.
specific period of time, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, for sure.
That is a very good take on it because I never thought about that. But like, that's, I could totally get that because I mean, yeah, Chris already knows my issues with those movies. I said them so many times to him, and I love Scream, but there's there's how many sequels and there's still all the main characters, and I just need one of them just to go. And I'm just so sick of it. I mean, come on. There's the number 5 is they're already working on number 5.
You're literally like Austin Powers in the second movie with that woman. He's like, why won't you die?
Literally, that's how I feel watching them. And I'm just like, I love Courtney Cox and, David Arquette and Neve Campbell. But like at the same time, I'm just like, someone die, like anybody. Yeah. I don't care,
I was heartbroken when Randy, the horror movie nerd, died.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like, of all these people.
Yes.
Of all these people you could have killed. You had to kill.
You let the coolest dude die.
And I'm not trying to knock David Arquette, but oh my God, I can't stand his character. Like, I just want him gone so bad. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, please let there be something in this. You know what I mean? So
God, I love him so much. I wouldn't know which one I want dead. I don't want Dewey to die. That's for sure.
Courtney Cox is my favorite.
No, Gail can die, I think.
Gail, the one that's the bitch is always my favorite in these films. The one that always dies like first or second is usually the one I want to like live. You know what I mean? So.
A friend of mine, Kate Sanchez from But Why Though, she was on an episode of Radio Creeps and we talked about Scream a lot. She's a big Scream fan.
Yeah.
And she brought up some really cool points about the original Scream kind of like going down a trope road and then subverting it. And so like Courtney Cox, she's Gail Weathers, and she is like usually the type of person who is so strong-willed and everything that she ends up dead because of it, right?
Right.
But they turn it on its head and she lasts on and on and on through the movies.
Right.
Dewey is the anti-cop. Usually the cop is like burly, strong guy, going to save the day. And he's kind of the fumbly, bumbly kind of, the opposite of like toxic masculinity and things like that, which I think is really interesting. So like, as much as those characters seem a little wonky to me, I feel like that's the filter of me just looking at the history of horror films and this one not being like them, but it's not like them in a way that is designed to be different. And I think that, that subversion of those things that have been kind of ingrained in me as a horror fan, I think that there's something interesting there. So as much as I do feel like those characters are a little off, I think that's just the burned in memory of watching horror movies for so long that always go the other way with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really did. Like it really did like flip everything over. Like I'm sure a lot of people in theaters, which I wasn't, I was born when the movie came out. So like I didn't get to see it in theaters.
What year did it come out? 95?
November 94. Of 96.
96. I was
like 6 months old. And
I had my learner's permit, guys.
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that.
I was driving fucking cars.
I didn't want to say I was waiting on that because I don't know how old you are, but like at the same time, I was like, I have a feeling he's going to say.
Yeah. When they were doing that bullshit where they were like, oh, post a horror movie from the year you turned 16. I was like, I ain't trying to post a horror movie that came out before any of you were alive. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that.
That's great. Jesus.
I always make jokes with Dead in Santa Carla because they're out of the people in the network, they always say they're the oldest, and I always call him Dad. Literally, Brian from Dead in Santa Carla has the same name as my dad's name, so I always make jokes like he's my dad and everything, and he's just like, God, this is sad that like I'm the oldest one.
I think that was it was Brian who chimed in. He was like, no, man, I was, he's actually a little bit older than me. I don't want to give away anybody's age, but he's a little older than me. And he was like, no, man, don't feel bad. And I was like, dude, we're fucking dinosaurs, man.
God.
Oh my gosh.
I love playing jokes, but like one thing that's blows my mind is like the horror community really brings like all kinds of different people of all kinds of different ages. Like it's just, it's so fucking cool. Like, fuck, I'm friends with Brian and Andy and they're from the other side of the United States, and we're just talking like we've been friends for like years just because of horror, just blows my mind.
There's something fun about fandoms making you feel young. And it sounds corny, but like I'm 40 years old and fuck 40, man. I'm 40 years old and I don't ever feel 40, especially, sitting here. We're at an hour and 3 minutes. I don't feel like I'm sitting here talking to people that are significantly younger than me. I feel like I'm just hanging out. So I don't know. That's something fun about fandoms. They can bring out like the kid in you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Definitely. No, definitely. I wanted to, since we I don't know how we've transitioned on this episode. I don't know how it's happened, but it has. But I wanted to kind of revert back to the zombie talk because
that's right. That's where
That's what we were talking about.
Right. Wasn't that right? No, but like, that's why I'm sitting here in my head while you all were talking. I was thinking, okay, what can I tell Chris to title this video or this podcast? Because this is going to be an interesting one. But I wanted to ask you, as far as more recent, I guess, films that feature a kind of a post-apocalyptic and, zombies and whatnot. Have you ever watched the film? It came out in 2016, and this is actually one of my favorites because I'm not as big as a zombie movie fan as Chris is. I do appreciate them and love them, and my partner absolutely loves anything that has to do with zombies, anything, literally anything. Okay. But there was a film that we watched, and I believe it was on Netflix, and it came out in 2016. It has Glenn Close in it. It's called The Girl with All the Gifts. And have you ever seen that movie, first of all?
Yeah, I have. I really enjoyed it.
Did you? Oh, really? Okay. See, I didn't know how, because JR, which is my partner, he did not, and he loves horror movie. He loves like horror zombie movies and post-apocalyptic kind of setting. And we watched it, and he hated it, and I was like kind of shocked because I'm the one that really doesn't care that much. They're not like my go-to, but that film, like, I don't know why it touched me, and I was just like, I love this film. I don't know,
I would have to say though, I think that. And this is where I'm going to sound pompous, and I fucking hate when
it's okay. Go ahead.
But I think that, and I hate this phrase, elevated horror. It makes me gag. I despise it because I feel like it's so full of shit and it's so like, smug and crappy. But where I think it applies and when I think it's used in a good context is not when it's elevated above other types of horror films, but when it's a film within a genre that somehow elevates itself, like transcends said genre, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not too long ago, we were talking about Jaws and how like integral Jaws is to horror, to the point where you almost like Jaws is just a good movie. You're not like Jaws is a great horror movie. It is a great horror movie. But that's like saying water is wet. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It goes beyond that to the point of being Jaws is just a great film. And I think Girl with All the Gifts kind of does that. So to someone who's looking for traditional post-apocalyptic or zombie or any of those other things that you mentioned JR is a fan of, I think that this one kind of does a little bit of a scoot on those kind of core tenets, and it goes beyond them in a way that makes it a little harder to latch onto if you're a fan of those things, because it kind of leaves them in its dust a little.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think I agree with you 100% because I think that's exactly what it was. Because I mean, if we're on Netflix, he will choose anything to have to do with like Night of the Living Dead. He will pick, anything. He loves everything there is to do with zombies. And now, except for The Walking Dead, that's a whole nother topic though. But he will literally, but when we watched this movie, because I had read on it and I was like, oh, this looks really good. It has zombies. I know you'll love it. I will love it. It has Glenn Close in it. So let's watch it. So we watched it, and and he was like, I hated this movie. And I was like, my face kind of cracked because I was so shocked, but
I don't think that there's, and I don't mean it to sound like I'm saying there's anything wrong with disliking the film.
Right.
But I also think that we come to these films with like a certain preconceived notion of where we're going to be.
Exactly.
And when the film doesn't deliver that preconceived notion, then
you're disappointed.
Your immediate reaction is disappointment or, distaste for it. But
Absolutely. I definitely. So, Chris, have you ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't. But as we were,
Chris, come
Oh
on,
my
man.
gosh,
listen,
Chris.
boys, I am a little behind. Like you all talking about Channel Zero, which I have not seen that either. I'm
Oh.
like,
Damn
Or,
it, Chris.
or according to
40
me,
years-
Channel 1.
yeah. That's when you're like, have you seen
All the
Channel 1? I'm
channels.
like,
I
no.
can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
I literally have said that all day too. I've told everyone, you got to watch Channel 1, and they're probably thinking, what?
Yeah, they're like I've been Googling this
Yeah.
Channel 1. I don't know where I'm supposed to watch it.
Can never trust what Jesse says. That damn idiot. God,
Literally.
no.
Yeah.
By the way, I meant to say this early in the episode because we usually, with every guest that we have, we ask what their favorite scary movie is. What's your favorite scary movie?
What's your favorite one?
Well, it's handy for the zombie episode. My favorite horror movie of all time is Return of the Living Dead.
I knew it. I just wanted to hear it.
I did not know that, but that is actually one of JR's favorite movies. So
Oh yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Dude,
that's a
I
good
haven't
one.
seen it, but I was watching Insert. You're like, God damn
Are
it,
you
Chris. What are you
serious,
doing
Chris?
with your life?
Chris, what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
When you invited me on this show, you didn't tell me that you hadn't seen, like, I don't know, anything we were going to talk
I
about.
do a
Every
horror
movie we talk about,
podcast,
he's like,
but
I
I
haven't seen
don't
it yet.
watch horror. I'm just in it for the fun. No.
If you hear me clicking, it's just me unfollowing you.
Yeah,
Don't
right,
worry
you're just
about
like,
it.
don't even
bye.
think anything about it.
No, I was watching In Search of Darkness, which is a fucking cool ass fucking documentary on Shudder.
Yeah.
But I was watching some clips of that movie and I'm like, God damn, this movie looks so up my fucking alley. Like that fucking zombie
Yeah.
that's like, bring more cops. I'm just like, hell
Yeah.
yes. This is like fucking, I don't even know how to fucking explain it. This is like, how would you fucking explain that movie?
Return of the Living Dead. Here's the thing. Okay. I'm going to try to not be here 3 hours from now still talking about Return of the Living Dead, but I fucking love this movie. It's my favorite movie. Linnea Quigley, who plays Trash, I met her at Days of the Dead in Louisville, and I have her name tattooed on my arm. She signed my arm and I got it tattooed. Like, I'm a rabid Return of the Living Dead fan.
Shit, son.
Now, here's the thing with Return of the Living Dead. Joe Russo and George Romero did Night of the Living Dead together. When they parted ways, Russo kept the Living Dead side of things. There's some tricky, weird legal copyright, whatever stuff there. So he had a script for Return of the Living Dead, which was originally a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. He had been shopping it around and things had been going on. He eventually got involved with Dan O'Bannon. Excuse me. Dan O'Bannon wrote a bunch of sci-fi horror, including Alien, and directed. He hadn't directed yet, but he wrote a bunch of sci-fi horror and horror films. And so he had reworked Russo's screenplay for Return of the Living Dead. They originally signed Tobe Hooper on to direct it, director of the original Texas Chainsaw. Tobe Hooper was off, I want to say, directing Life Force or some such nonsense, and couldn't do Return of the Living Dead, so he backed out at the last minute. But they had shopped it around with Tobe Hooper as the director. To this day, you can still find recreations of those original posters that they were using to try to get people to invest in the film that said written by Dan O'Bannon, directed by Tobe Hooper.
Yeah, I
always
saw
thought
that.
was really rad. Yeah. So now, long story short, when Tobe Hooper had to drop out, Dan O'Bannon was like, I'm a writer. I'm actually a great writer. I could do this directing shit. Let's go. And he decided to direct it. And it was his first film. It took, with Dan O'Bannon's script, it took like a very direct kind of horror comedy kind of madcap vibe to it. And Dan O'Bannon leaned into it hard. Enlisted a bunch of actors that were somewhat new and up and coming and threw the punks in there, because in 1985, punks were kind of the shit right then and there. He just really took a fresh take on zombies. One of the things that I think is the most lasting about it is the idea of zombies eating brains. That actually, every zombie film prior to Return of the Living Dead, zombies just ate people. They ate skin, brain, whatever the hell they could get their hands on. They just ate people. In Return of the Living Dead, it's the first time you hear of zombies saying brains and being motivated to actually eat the brains of their victims and things like that. Its impact on zombie movies is huge to this day. And it's referenced in a million different places. The matter of fact, we were talking about Walking Dead. In the first episode of Walking Dead, there's that half corpse over there that's a direct nod to Return of the Living Dead. They have a half corpse in Return of the Living Dead that's on a slab and they're interrogating her.
Yeah, I saw that scene in there because they were sitting there talking to her and she says it helps her relieve the pain or something. Isn't that what she says? Yep. Dude, because that corpse looks so identical in The Walking Dead. And I was like, that is so cool after watching the documentary.
Is a direct homage. Yeah, it's a direct homage to Return of the Living Dead.
That's awesome.
It stars Tom Matthews, who later played Tommy Jarvis in part 6. It stars James Karen, and Clu Gulager, and Mark Venturini. Actually, here's another thing I wanted to mention. And there's another thing I always talk about when I talk about Return of the Living Dead, because it ties to Friday the 13th, and that's fun. Miguel Nunez is Spider in Return of the Living Dead. He's later Demon in Friday the 13th, Part 5. Tom Matthews is Freddy in Return of the Living Dead. He's later Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th, Part 6. Mark Venturini is Suicide in Return of the Living Dead, and he's later Vic in Friday the 13th, Part 5.
Yeah.
A ton of these people cross over here and there. Linnea Quigley, who was in Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Night of the Demons, and a couple other movies like that. She plays Trash, the kind of like punk queen. But yeah, it's honestly, it's got funny moments. It's got serious moments. It's just an all around, it's a fun movie, and it does a lot of cool things with zombies that you kind of still see today. So
yeah, I really need to see it, because after watching that documentary, I've seen them talk about some movies that I just haven't had the opportunity to watch yet. And I'm like, God damn, these movies are so up my alley. Why haven't I seen them? And what's the other one that I haven't seen that I'm been freaking out about? Scanners. I still haven't seen Scanners, and that fucking head blowing up scene, God damn, is beautiful.
I guarantee anybody who hasn't seen Scanners has seen the GIF of that head blow up scene.
I was like, that's where that's from.
Yeah, it's like one of the high watermarks for that kind of a gag, you know?
So, like, what I'm basically saying is I'm going to have to quit this show. Jesse's going to have to do it by himself.
And you have homework.
Yeah.
You really do.
Return later.
Like, it's fine. It's totally fine.
Jesse, I have so many people telling me, they're like, you need to have a talk with Jesse because his favorite film's Halloween 5. So I don't know if you can even be the host of this show.
I wasn't going to tell Matt that yet, but okay.
Man.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Matt, wait.
He's like,
wait,
what?
There is nothing. There is nothing you can say to me though.
No,
I'm not going to agree with you. Okay. I respect your opinion, but I will never agree with that.
He's like, that is the weirdest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chris, for definitely throwing that out there. I was waiting for it because at the very end of this, I was going to be like, oh, so our favorites are, and then I was going to see what your reaction, but then now I already know what it, I mean, I should have already known from the beginning.
It would have been funny if after I said that. It was just
the only reason why is because when I was little, I got the whole box set of the Halloween, the Jasons, and the Freddys for Christmas. And I was like literally 12 years old. And what mother does that? I have no clue at the time, but she was awesome. And that's what I wanted. And I got it. So when I was watching Halloween has always been my favorite franchise. And part number 5 is when I watched that film, I was very drawn to the character of Tina, who's played by Wendy Kaplan, now Wendy Foxworth. But I was very drawn to her for some reason, and I don't know why, when I was 12. And when she died in that film, I like cried. It was like the only time I've ever actually cried in a horror movie, like watching a horror film. And that was one, like, I don't know why. And because it's not even that as dramatic as what I'm making it out to be, but it was very traumatic, I guess, is for me. I don't know why. And I also think it was kind of, I like the film because it takes the main character away from the film very early on and puts it on Tina. And I feel like that was interesting. I don't know. I just love that film. I don't know. But yeah, Chris gives me hell for it every chance.
I'm going to try to do it every time someone's in the show. I'll be like, so the weather's nice. Jesse's favorite movie's Halloween 5. Wait, what?
I can't help it. I love that movie.
Literally,
I'm
Michael's
sorry.
mask, I
Right,
swear, like if he took that mask off, I guarantee it's thick neck. That fucking meme of that guy with the thick neck, that's him.
I totally agree with you guys. I know it's trash. I get it. But like, and it was like the worst one, I think, out of the whole entire, like that timeline. But I don't know. That movie is just, I don't know. It's my favorite.
You know what it is? Here's the thing with horror movies, right? When you say, "Oh, I got it as a young kid, and I just something about it, I just gravitated toward it," blah blah,
Right.
all those different things about your history, and I'm screwing up my own point here. Basically, what I'm trying to say is your history with a horror film, that it's unique to you, and that's much more important than any critical review, what your friends think of it, any of those things. Horror movies and how we react to them, it's a very unique and personal experience. So your personal experience with that horror film, that's that's nothing for anybody else to judge.
Right.
We can sit and discuss it, and I can throw a few jabs here or there and make a joke. That's all well, fine and good. But there's something uniquely personal, especially about the horror films we see at a young age, or, some of the first ones that pull us in.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something, home about those horror films.
Very true. See, whenever that's how I feel too. It's like whenever I get to part number 4 and number 5, I get like, I don't know. It's like that sense of comfort when I watch it. It like gives me a nostalgic kind of feeling, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know. It's always kind of just stuck with me. Trust me. I've made JR watch it and he hated it too. So, he was like, this is the worst one. And I'm like, no, it's not. Shut up.
Yeah. But, hey, I like I said, first of all, I'll start by saying I have no idea why, and I don't understand it. That said, I don't have to, right? Because it's uniquely personal to you. I mean, I've caught shit for some of the horror movies I love too. And, it's such an interesting, unique personal experience. What makes us latch on to certain films like this. And, some of it is like some of these really out there kind of smaller, lesser known fears that we have that maybe we don't even realize we have, but that film trips that fear in just the right way. And so it's always kind of special to us because it scares us in a way that no other, whatever the case.
Yeah. And I totally agree with what you just said. I think that, I don't know. I watched this documentary on that film specifically, and because they kind of released them with, the films, and then, it was like this big whole documentary about it. But I watched it, and there's a lot of raw footage of them behind the scenes and how they all traveled together, and they got they were all really, really close on set, and they were all very new, and because there was a lot of new actors that had never really, this was their first big feature film, I guess, at the time. And I don't know. I like you said, I was just it was very nostalgic, very drawn to it. And what's so funny is before, I knew you were coming on here this week, Chris texted me and said, guess what we're doing next week? And I said, he goes, I have a surprise for you. And I said, is it Wendy Kaplan from Halloween 5? He was like, no, not yet. And I was like, okay.
Still working on it. Just wait.
Yeah. So anyways,
I was like, it's Matt from Gun. And he's like, God damn it.
No, I literally was like, wait, Gun
Son
Media?
Of a bitch.
I said Gun Media, and he was like, yeah, and I kind of fangirled a little bit, and then I was like, I'm so excited to talk to him, so.
Well, like I said, I pulled it up here, and I'm scrolling through just because I wanted to talk about The Mask, right? Oh my goodness, The Mask. I think that's probably the worst Michael mask.
It is. I think honestly, it was rated.
Halloween
wasn't it rated
mask,
the worst?
I hate the most. Halloween 4 mask is so fucking doopy looking. Not doopy, because I call my son doopy, and I love that word. So it's so I'll just call it flat out stupid. It's Michael's cousin that's not really that cool, and he pops up.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, oh shit, this isn't even Michael. Who are you? That's that mask. I see that mask and I'm like, God damn it. Who is this guy?
I'm sitting here looking at a side by side of Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 masks. And it's just geez, my goodness.
And it's supposed to be the same mask.
Okay, people on it, literally, but just know that the budget was not there.
I mean, clearly.
I just want
Oh,
y'all
my
to be
goodness.
aware of this, okay?
Whereas the original Michael mask is a William Shatner mask.
Yeah.
This, I don't know. Halloween 4 looks like a Phil Hartman mask. And Halloween 5, I'd swear it's like a young Nick Cage mask or something.
Literally.
So weird. Wow.
I just pulled up a picture of Halloween 4 and literally his mask looks like he's constipated and he's not sure why. So he's thinking about what he's been eating the past few days.
Oh
He's
my
like,
gosh.
what exactly did I eat to cause this?
The picture I have here, it looks like an uptight dad asking like his teenage kid to come down for dinner. Like, are you going to join us for dinner
Yeah,
tonight? Or?
he's the normal white guy. When people ask like how much he made on his tax return, he's like, that's personal. That's his face.
That's private information.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This was too good.
I mean, the Halloween 5 one, I mean, yeah, the neck area.
That is
Yeah.
the Nick Cage reference is fucking spot on.
I'm actually seeing some like really bad masks that are like, Michael Myers mask, and they look a lot like the Halloween 5 one.
They probably are, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
there's
like
no doubt about it.
The bootleg Halloween masks. Yeah, and in the film, it gets kind of like oddly narrow on the actor's face at times.
It looks
which
like-
is where the Nick Cage thing comes from.
Yeah.
Because it narrows out the face. But yeah.
It looks like
sorry.
some
I don't mean
fucking
to rip-
alien
No, it's
creature.
okay. I get it. I know it is. Yeah.
I mean, those movies brought Danielle Harris into Halloween, so there's that.
There is
too,
positive,
They
yeah,
did.
for sure.
They did. Yeah.
And she's just awesome.
I love her. I loved her in the Hatchet series. I thought she was fantastic in
Yep.
that series. So I think she's
I was really
overall-
upset. I was gonna meet her at Days of the Dead Indy, and she wasn't able to make it. And I was like, "Damn
I
it!"
did not know that, but
Yeah.
that's really depressing.
Oh God. Well, boys, I think this is a good time to call it there. I think we talked about some great shit. I don't even know what to title this, but I'm gonna I think I'm gonna just
Give me
call it.
one.
I'm gonna call it zombies, slashers, and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, you should just call it, you know what you should do? You should just like title it, you should just title it A Conversation with Matt from Gun Media / Halloween 5 Sucks. Like you should totally add that in. There's Halloween 5 Sucks, Cannibal Holocaust is everything.
Oh God, don't do that. You'll doom the episode.
Oh my gosh.
And the
Yeah.
curse will pass on to you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Honestly,
One thing though that I did want to note before we move on,
okay.
because I actually did a tiny bit of like notes on the zombie angle.
Uh-huh.
I really think the 2004 Dawn of the Dead,
Yes.
the remake of Dawn of the Dead, was a huge part in the resurgence in zombies.
Yes.
I think 28 Days Later was another huge
Yep.
one.
Yes.
Running zombies. Then we started to see zombies kind of being referenced in pop culture, like, Zombie Handbook and things like that.
Mhm.
We also saw movies like I Am Legend, which is kind of zombie-esque, but a little different, and things like that. I think that those films kind of led to the moment of Walking Dead. And I think that when Walking Dead came out, really, that was the number one, that was the catalyst for the, oh my God, everyone loves zombies, like kind of, the critical mass that zombies hit in pop culture.
Mhm.
And it was also the detriment to zombies in pop culture. So I think that we actually kind of, in a way, covered the topic, in my opinion, by talking about Walking Dead, because it both brought it to the forefront of everyone's minds and brought it straight into the pop culture in a way that it hadn't been in a long time. And it also crushed it with saturation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It really
I
did.
don't think it could have been said any better than that just now. I'm telling you, I feel like if you're not a motivational speaker at some point in your life, you should be. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm being dead serious right now. I'm serious. Like, because you just said that and I was like kind of toned out again. Just like listening.
I used to take offense to that, but people used to be like, Matt, your voice, it just could put me to sleep. And I'm like, you're saying I'm boring? And people are like, no, it's a good thing.
It's like listening
Yeah.
to Pink Floyd. Every time I listen to Pink Floyd while driving, I almost die because I just zone out. Literally, no joke. I was driving with my friend Tristan and my friend Jay. We were driving and Pink Floyd was on, and I was off the road, and they were like, "You're trying to kill us," and I'm like, "Damn,
What are
Pink
you
Floyd!"
doing?
I was like, "God damn!"
You're over there just behind the wheel. And you're like, no, brick in yeah, man.
I was like,
Oh my
hello,
gosh.
hello. And I was like, oh shit, what am I doing? I'm supposed to be
Is there
driving.
anybody off the road? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh my gosh,
God.
that's too
Whatever
bad.
you do, don't listen to my podcast while you're driving. Then, okay?
I literally already plan on doing that. So, I mean, it's fine.
I'll make sure to message you on Twitter, Matt, and I'll be like, Jesse just died in a car accident.
Oh God!
I'll be like, he was
So
the
dark.
last thing was on his phone was Radio for the Creeps.
I just feel that I just feel like I'm very hexed right now. I don't know why. I have a very
Yeah.
just because you just said that, and not to mention earlier, Matt, you mentioned how Cannibal
I brought up-
Holocaust is a
I
thing.
brought Cannibal Holocaust.
So I just want to say on that movie real quick, and then we will totally finish this up. But I just had to add this in there. I watched that movie because I was really into like exploitation films at a point, and I really wanted to like watch something that represented that in itself. And so that film popped up on an IMDb list, and I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is about. And then at first I was like, okay. Well, then I watched it, and like I told you in the beginning, I did enjoy it. I really enjoyed it, and then I started looking at it and more in depth. But here's my question to you, this last question. But I just needed to know because I thought about this afterwards. Have you watched The Green Inferno, and what do you think about The Green Inferno? Is that badly done to your? I mean, do you think that they kind of paid homage, or no, not really, and it was kind of something completely?
I'm conflicted on it, honestly, and I'm conflicted on a lot of Eli Roth's stuff.
Right.
We were just, the most recent episode of Radio for the Creeps was about, Hostel was one of the films we talked about, and I think that the Green Inferno tries to do something that could be cool and could be clever, but I think a lot like Hostel, a lot like the original Cannibal Holocaust, even it's a theme that I kind of keep going back to because I just I keep finding myself talking about these movies that do it. But when you have a chance to create commentary and criticism on something, and it's a very delicate practice. I'm not trying to sound like I'm some authority on it, but it's a very delicate practice trying to create commentary without tripping over yourself and becoming a part of the thing you're criticizing.
Right.
Now, I think a lot of these films, Cannibal Holocaust is definitely one of them that comes to mind.
Mhm.
It gets up to that line, and when it should put the brakes on and dial it back so that it can stand as a criticism and a commentary on something, it trips over itself and it ends up on the other side of that line, and it becomes what it's criticizing.
Okay.
In Cannibal Holocaust, it was criticizing sensationalist media.
Right.
And they were trying to say, well, these journalists are bad because they're out there abusing these people, trying to do something sensationalist in order to get ratings back home. But that's exactly what it was doing. It was furthering stereotypes and tropes about indigenous people being dangerous cannibals and things like that.
Right.
It furthered all of that. It furthered that with real violence against animals and things like that, and trying to be as graphic as possible.
Right.
So in its criticizing sensationalist media, it became sensationalist media. And I think that Hostel does the same kind of thing. I think that Green Inferno does the same. I mean, Green Inferno is a nod to a movie that tripped over its own 2 feet, and it trips over its own 2 feet. And I think that this is why when directors come along that are really finely tuned into that line and where it is, and they can bring you right up to the edge of it and then come back and put the brakes on in a way where it can stand as criticism without going over the line and becoming what it criticizes. I think that those films really end up on the pedestal that they deserve, where Cannibal Holocaust is something that's consistently troubling and tricky to talk about, and Green Inferno is not really any better, and Hostel, and a lot of the films that Eli Roth, and I'm not trying to beat up on the guy, but
I'm with you on this.
A lot of the films that he ends up making end up doing the same kind of thing. They get real close to a line of, if you had just dialed it back a little right there, and not a lot, but just know when it's that finesse of knowing when to put the brakes on just a bit.
Like we don't need all of it. We just need a little bit of it, kind of.
Well, and recognizing when you're like, hey, are we becoming sensationalist and like kind of mondo and becoming kind of like over the top, or are we doing this in a way that is shining the light on it without us falling into that trap?
Like it's kind of like it's lacking substance in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I really wanted Green Inferno to be cool because, again, I'm apparently married to Cannibal Holocaust.
There's no getting away from it now.
I really was hoping it would be cool for fans like me, you know. Yeah. So,
well,
I think though, one thing that I have to say is, thank God for films like Cannibal Holocaust. And this is a tricky thing to say. Thank God for films like that, films like Hostel, films like Green Inferno. They give us something to talk about. And these discussions are important. And, you know, as podcasters, everybody in this call, as podcasters, we know those conversations are important. Even if you can still appreciate the film behind them, they're important to have because we all kind of, it gives us more to the film, more to analyze, more to talk about, more depth there than just, I watched a movie and it was good. Tune in next week. You know, these conversations, they change the outlook we have on a lot of different things. They change the lens that we look at these films with every time we go after we see one. Our filter is altered, and then we see the next one and our filter is altered again. And all along the way, we're opening our eyes up to new and interesting things.
I zoned out again.
One
I don't
more
know.
time.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Jesse, you're
I did.
fired.
I'd like
get the hell out of here.
No, I zoned out as in I was listening to him like talk again. I was just like,
at first, I didn't know how to take that. I was like zoned out, like you didn't hear a word I said.
Sorry. I meant,
You're like,
I was like totally like drawn into what you were saying.
I was about to say, like, Jesse, I thought we were friends.
Yeah, I thought at this point.
He's like, yeah, I was texting. I'm sorry. No.
Oh my gosh,
We're
no.
gonna get to Jesse listening to this episode in a couple of days to try to recap.
Well, you know what's funny is when JR listens to this, because he usually always listens to them whenever we release them. He's gonna listen to it and he's gonna be like, why didn't you talk that much? I'll be like, well, obviously because I was completely, I don't know, zoned out with his, like the way he talks. And like, I was totally interested in everything he was saying. Like I couldn't help myself. Like, I don't know.
I appreciate that very much.
Oh, no problem.
Well,
but
Matt,
I think,
what were you going to say,
Chris.
Jesse?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You want to say something? No, I'm just joking.
Okay.
Matt, do you have anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, honestly, you know, look, I'm doing a lot of different things for fun right now. I'm professionally, I would definitely love to plug Gun. Make sure you're following Fear the Gun everywhere possible. We're usually found at Fear the Gun on different social media platforms, and follow up with Layers of Fear 2 and Friday the 13th, the game. As for me and my pet projects, man, I'm honestly, I'm on Radio Creeps on Twitter, and we post everywhere you can find a podcast. So if you're interested, check it out. I'm just having a good time doing these things and trying to enjoy this, you know, search for a little creativity while we're all stuck at home. And I hope that you all are out there listening. You're all trying to create a little something too.
I totally agree. And guys everyone that's listening, check out his show. It really is wonderful. I've listened to every episode but the Creep Show one because I still have to finish the show. But I've listened to everyone other than that one. It's a great show. And, you know, I'd love for you to be back on the show, Matt. I think this is, I think, one of the longest episodes we've done just because
this is
it's so
longest
easy
episode
just
we've
to
done.
fucking go on tangents and talk about
but
this shit.
But it doesn't even feel like we've been talking. I just feel like I feel like I like there has to be a follow-up to this, Matt, because like this isn't.
I feel like we just sat down.
I do too. Like we're gonna have to at some point have a follow up with you because this is not like I can't finish it.
This is the appetizer to the fucking show.
Yeah.
But we need to make sure that some films are viewed before we do this again.
Yes.
God damn, I know. I'm sorry. I'm the fucking worst.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
Be sure, guys, to watch Halloween 5 for our next episode. It's gonna be a doozy.
Oh boy,
we're gonna have some fun shit to talk about that one. Yeah, guys, we're part of the Slash and Cast podcast network. You can, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Now we have an Instagram, which is, we're on everything. We're fucking cool people now. And Check out the other shows. There's so many other fucking shows on there. It's too many to fucking name. It'll take like 3 minutes to name all the shows. I will go ahead and name one of the shows that recently just got added today. It is the Frightful Failures podcast. I listened to an episode today where they did an interview with Grady Hendrix. Great author, by the way. Did My Best Friend's Exorcism, Horror Store, and did a new book. God, I can't remember the fucking name, so no one shoot me. But it is a great podcast, so check out that show. And email us at the silverscreenscreamshow@gmail.com. And check out some merch. I have some cool merch ideas that are going to come out in the future. And just be fucking cool. Rate us a 5-star. Be cool dudes and gals. Be awesome people. And be creative during this fucking tough time. Like, there's nothing else better to do than to push yourself creatively. It could lead to something huge in the future. Like Stephen King obviously was here's another tangent before we leave. Stephen King.
Oh my God.
He loves reading, and he did write some short stories, but he was going to quit that shit because he got so many denials, but his wife told him to keep at it. He eventually pushed through Carrie, led to the biggest fucking breakthrough of his career, and he is a household name now. So like, just fucking create, do stuff, and you'll never know what it can lead to.
I think the biggest thing, if I could just comment, the biggest thing there is getting over the hurdle of being afraid to show the world what you've been working on.
Exactly.
Once you get over that, and once you go, you know what, fuck what people think, I'm putting this out there because I'm proud of it. I enjoyed making it, and I'm proud of it. And you just close your eyes and send it into the wild. Once you get over that hurdle of being afraid to show the world what you've been working on, next thing you know, you just don't know what you can come up with until you get there. And the world's there's a lot of shitty people in the world that are waiting for opportunities to cut other people down. But the truth of the matter is you have no time for that, and just keep plugging along and doing your thing because they're just angry that they're not creating anything themselves.
Yep.
Exactly.
Hell
I love that.
yes. That is a great closing to this episode, guys.
That was really good. I'm kind of like, almost wish I said that myself.
Jesse, do you have anything you have to say before we end it?
Absolutely. I mean, as always, everyone. Well, first, let me just say, thank you so much, Matt. This has been so much fun for me. I was so nervous before we started this because I was just kind of like, oh gosh, I don't know how to act. But I'm so glad that I got to meet you on here, and I think you're amazing. And this was so much fun. I definitely can't wait to have you on here again.
Thank you so much.
No problem. And to everyone out there listening, just remember, stay scary.
Stay scary, motherfuckers.